How you doing, everyone? It's the podcast about everything. Episode 3. Coming from you today from this lovely, lovely sunny Sunday. Still in lockdown, unfortunately, but there you go. Still with me is my co-host, Mr. Joe. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jake. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad, not so bad. Hopefully, this podcast, you might be able to hear us a little bit better. We're using different setup, wired earphones and laptops and whatnot. So hopefully the sound quality will be better. So let's get on with this third episode. So this one is about work. What we've done, what we wanted to do, where we didn't go. Our dreams had never happened. But yeah, the thing that dominates our lives more than anything, work. So I'll start off. Joe, work. Talk to me. What was your first experiences of it?
My first job, my first experience at work. I suppose I go right back, and you'll probably be able to relate to this, Jake. My dad in particular, because growing up, my dad worked. He was and still is an ice cream man, a confectioner, ice cream vendor, however you like to put it.
Can we plug him? Can we plug him at the moment?
It's Frank's Ices. He's currently on lockdown, like everyone else involved in catering. But Frank's Ices, you find him around Hatfield. There's about 4 generations of people who know my dad after being on his round for about 30 years. So pretty incredible. But mum stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mum. You know, I'm one of 5, so she had her hands full. That was two times a day job. That was what she did. But I grew up as a young kid learning the family business. I mean, I guess you probably did the same, right?
Yeah. Obviously, we got a family business, food industry as well. And we're salad growers and packers. So yeah, I pretty much grew up with that. As the business grew, I grew with it. I have very, very early memories of being down in the warehouse and the growing areas from a child, just growing up around it. So like you, I was involved from a very early age. Too young, might say. I don't know. I remember my first experience was I was about 13, 14. My dad comes into my room at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and he's like, "Get up." I'm like, "What do you mean get up?" I was like, "Oh, we haven't got school today." It's like, "No, you haven't got school, but today you're going to learn how to work." So he took me down to the warehouse, stood me in front of all the guys that work with him and his employees there, and pretty much said to him, "Look, I know he's my son, but don't treat him any differently." And I was given some really, really dog shit jobs. It was, I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I mean, I got paid, which, for a 14-year-old wasn't that bad. Didn't really have much to buy. That took the edge off it. But yeah, it was it was a learning curve. A learning curve to tell me that if I didn't do well at school, that's where I'd end up. And that's where I did end up. But I'll talk a bit more about that later.
Says a lot about what you did at school then, I suppose.
I wasn't stupid. I was just very unfocused. I just didn't really care.
Well, would you know what? It's funny the way you described that, and that's a very similar, I suppose, introduction to work that I had, in the sense of, probably similar sort of age, very early teens, maybe just around the start of sort of secondary school, I suppose, is when I was helping my dad on a more regular basis. But even younger than that, I remember my dad taking me everywhere, like taking me to load up and taking me to maybe to the odd fete, or even going to work with him for the day, and spending those times. And a bit like you, I got to say, I didn't enjoy it at all. In fact, like you, I hated it. It was particularly those early mornings, like you say. I suppose the only difference for me was that you were working around a big workforce. I was just me and my dad. So I had nobody to bitch to about it. I had nobody to talk to. It's just literally my dad saying, if I say jump, you say how high, so it's like, okay, Dad, you're the king and I respect you. I just want to play with my toys instead I'm having to get boxes of ice creams out of freezers and pass them to you, and all those like the dog jobs, like you said. But yeah, I absolutely hated the fact that I had to get up early. I hated the fact that my mates, whose parents were maybe like police officers or doing jobs which meant you couldn't get your kid to help. They got to play and do other things while we were learning the family business. So
yeah.
those are the worst ones as well. So obviously, ice cream man, summer. Summer holidays. The other kids, summer holidays, stay up late, get up late. Holiday. No, dad's busy period, right? And I'm guessing it's probably the same for you.
Yeah, we are extremely busy in the summer, and it was hot days working in a hot warehouse with machines around you. You'd be working from like 7 a.m. to like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. depending on how busy your day is. All your friends are out playing football in the field or down the park. You're just like putting a shift in, basically. I mean, I didn't really care about football. I didn't really care. I'm not really a big sports guy. But, it was more the FOMO of it all, like missing out of what might have happened down the park that day. Someone did this or someone did that. So, it was... but I hated my parents for it, I'm not going to lie. but it taught me values. It taught me values, hard work and earning money and stuff. So it wasn't all bad. But at that point, at that 14, 15-year-old Jake, I hated every minute of it. It was horrible. I really did not look. I actually used to look forward to going to school.
I remember being in the summer. I remember summer holidays. I'd been out during the day and that, because obviously for me, helping my dad meant being there early in the morning and being there late at night. Before he leaves and when he comes home. And I mean, bless him. I mean, he works and he worked even back then. Long hours. Summer holidays would be long hours. So he'd be out, on his rounds, starting late morning, maybe 10 a.m. He'd be already out, and he'd be getting home at like 10, 11 a.m. at night sometimes. Long days. And I remember, I'd help him in the morning. What a drag, but whatever. He's gone. I can go and do my thing now during the day. I'd just be settling in. I'd be under my covers, right, watching something on telly. I don't know what it'd be. Probably Power Rangers or something. Well, I don't know about Power Rangers. It would be 10 o'clock at night. I don't know.
Oh,
maybe.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, it'd be late. But I'm talking about getting a bit older now, probably about 14, 15. So, you're staying up late and you're watching.
Channel 4 Friday nights.
Channel 4 Friday nights. Absolutely spot on. And watching something or another, and next thing I know, that phone goes, and I knew it. The signal was call the house phone, right? And there'd be three rings, right? It'd ring 3 times, and that was death. 3 rings of death was that's for you, Joe. Get your ass in the garage because I'm about a minute away, and you're gonna have to be out here for the next hour and a half helping me until we finished, unloading this ice cream van.
It was like a warning system. Warning 1. Warning 2, final warning. Get it out. Come on.
And you know what? I'll admit it. Sometimes I'd pretend I was fast asleep. Yeah. That would just infuriate him even more. He'd call back. He'd wait. And he'd be like, why is Joe not in the garage? He'd call up again. And he'd call again. And so my mum would be like, wake up. He's like, Joe, your dad's in the garage. Get out there. Oh, so yeah. So, I felt the pain, Jake. I felt the pain.
It was not nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if I have kids, they're going to go through the same thing. Probably not because I'm trying to teach them a lesson. Probably because if I went through it, you're going to have to go through it. But some deep-seated vengeance. But, but as I said, it was hard. But then when I started to get paid, I mean, it wasn't an awful lot. But at 14, 15 years old, if you're taking like £100 home a week, that's quite substantial back then. What did I spend money on, really? My parents were still buying me stuff. I didn't really go out. So it was just nice. Like, so, okay. So, like, then the problem was, though, when you did finally get to the age where you saved all this money up and, like, you're going out and stuff, all your friends ain't working the same amount of work you're doing. So, like, they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I can come out. Like, so I don't get paid till, like, Friday or something. But because you worked the whole week the previous week, because everyone else was working on shift, you're like, oh, I can do it, but like others can't. So there was that sort of. So you're working hard, but at the same time you couldn't really do anything.
Just see, it's interesting though. Like, this is clearly like a level of trust that your parents had with you that they didn't have with me. Clearly, my parents. So when I was like working with my dad, I wouldn't get paid a wage, right? Okay. Basically, my wage would be like, here's your wage, which I'm going to take back off you, and I'm going to look after for you because I know if I give you this money, you're going to waste it on like computer game magazines, comic books, sweets and chocolate. I was quite portly, obviously.
Same.
They knew I'd waste it. So they kind of like, when you want your money, let us know what you want it for and we'll give it to you. And they usually did, but they did not trust me with that kind of money in my bank account or as cash. So you're privileged, I'd say.
Well, it's funny you mentioned bank accounts because back then I didn't know what a bank account, how it worked. So whenever I got paid, I just put my money in a shoebox. And then my mum was cleaning one day and she came across a shoebox full of cash. I went fucking mad because she was just like, what is this money doing? It was like a whole summer holiday's worth of money.
She thought you were drug dealing, isn't it?
Well, she was just like, it was just a bit like, well, what is this? Like, where's this from? I was like, well, you guys kind of gave it to me. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you pay me for work. They're like, Jake, we've been robbed 2 or 3 times before. We got robbed a couple of times. Like, what if that had happened again and like someone stole your money? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm 14, 15 years old. I don't know what the finer points of banking is. So I just stuff it in a Nike shoebox.
Yeah, well, look, to be fair, to put it in context, we are the sons of immigrants, first generation Anglo-Italians, and that's probably actually part of the reason why our parents were so keen on us learning the family business, because I mean, like, they came over here, our parents came over here to this country with our grandparents, and they only knew what they knew, and they probably would learn the same thing from their parents in a way, so they were probably just trying to continue that tradition. And so I can see the reasoning behind it. I can see why they were desperate.
We were in a way, we were sort of taught values for that. We learned like the meaning of hard work. Like ultimately, it felt good to earn your money and then like buy yourself something, even if it was something small. But like the fact you was like, okay, I'll earn now, I can buy that myself. There was a sense of pride there. I feel anyway.
No, definitely. And even though I like at the time I hated it, and I hated the fact that I had to do, the work with my dad when all my mates were just chilling out. I now look back on it and I feel grateful. Actually, I feel blessed. The fact that he wasn't just teaching me about being an ice cream man. He was teaching me about how to run a business. This is a man who's self-employed, who sustained a family, sustains a family even still to this day. Working his job, and he's a businessman, and he taught me what it meant to be customer facing, talk to people, to build rapport with people. He told me what it meant to be diligent with the work that you do, and make sure that you have a sense of pride, and and those times where he'd take me out and take me to load up with him to the depot, or he'd take me here, there and everywhere. He was teaching me what it meant to make eye contact and and build relationships with people in a positive way. And I now look back on it and I feel really grateful. At the time it was annoying, but I feel grateful that I had those interactions with people, and I had my dad as an example there to teach me.
Yeah, no, you're right. And as well, I always laugh about it. I feel like the businesses our families got into were not the most, how can I put it, sexy things in a way. Like when you had to explain to your friends, like, oh, so what is it like you help your dad with? Like, what does your dad do? It's like, I mean, maybe for you it was all right because, like you said, like your dad's an ice cream man, and like that's kind of cool in its own way. I remember coming to your house and like we'd go to the van and stuff. That's kind of cool. Yeah. But if I had to go and say to people, oh yeah, so like basically, my family grow cucumbers to sell to supermarkets, they looked at me very perplexed, as if to say, what? There's a market for that, or there's actually someone that does that. And then you have to go into the whole education behind it, and the whole you're pretty much, you're explaining things for a good half hour before people start to understand what it is you do. And at that point, no matter what you do, nothing you're saying makes it sound better than what it is. When all you got your other friends whose parents, like you say, are like police officers, or I don't know, firefighters, or they work in like big companies as like project
in an office,
in an office,
and
like people just found it really hard to sort of understand. But then as a kid, I would sometimes take my friends down there, and we'd sort of just like walk around and stuff after school, and they would be mesmerised by what they saw, because obviously like no one sees this stuff. So it was very odd. The whole thing was a very sort of odd sort of thing to grow up with. But eventually, I mean, there was a few people in the same boat as me, but it was always hard. Even now, for me to explain it to people, I sort of have to go into the finer details of it to sound like sort of just almost comprehensible, if you know what I mean.
No, definitely. And I think for me, it was probably slightly more glamorous. Ice creams, chocolates or sweets are a bit more glamorous than cucumbers, I suppose, when you're a kid. And it was like, oh, that's cool. your dad's an ice cream man. And I think, why don't you come round on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and help him then if you think it's that cool?
Yeah, and help me load up boxes of fucking feasts.
yeah. It was, so I suppose it was kind of glamorous to one extent. People would think it was cool, and like you said, people would want to see the ice cream van, and so in that sense, it was kind of cool. But yeah, I think I look back on it. It's a positive memory now. At the time, it was negative. Now it's definitely a bit more positive, and it helped shape me to have the careers that I've had, or the jobs that I've had in the meantime, I would say.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Have you ever had the desire to go into the van, put your head under the Mr. Softy machine, and just like open the thing up and like pour it in?
And for those of you that can't see, Jake is mimicking, tilting his head backwards, and almost kind of like, if you can imagine like a beer pump, pulling it back and letting the ice cream dribble into his face. I'm trying my best to try and describe it here for you, but that's exactly what he's doing right now. Yeah. Did I ever feel tempted? No, not really. Not to do that in particular. Did I feel tempted by the sweet stuff all the time? And that was like, I'll be honest, on the low, I could tell you straight. My dad would leave at like 10 in the morning. He'd be in his van. He'd leave the garage door would close, and I'd be left in that garage. Now, let me tell you, that garage was like Aladdin's cave of treasure.
I know. I've been there a few times. It was paradise. There was everything in there.
Yeah. There's a reason I had a weight problem, growing up.
And me, also.
You were dealing with salads, mate. I was dealing with ice cream.
Yeah, how bad does that make me feel? You had an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you were gorging on, but I was gorging on, ice creams and that. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Pirates of the Caribbean film where they go into that sort of cave where there's all that treasure and diamonds and stuff? It was that, pretty much. it was all that.
Yeah. That was the perk. Definitely the perk of being the son of ice cream man. Yeah. But yeah, the jobs weren't as glamorous. But then they were immigrants, and they were doing what they knew what to do. And they,
No, you're right.
They've been successful businesses, and but it's funny what you were saying about knowing other people who did the same. My uncle was an ice cream man. My godfather was an ice cream man. He had a fleet of ice cream vans. There's so many people I knew that were like us, which were like first generation Anglo-Italian. Their parents were like ice cream men, or there were salad growers,
or mechanics,
or hairdressers, barbers.
Barbers, yeah.
There was like 5 or 6 jobs that they could do, and they did them really well.
Straight away, bam. It was all trade, in a way, a trade sort of job as well. It was just, you think maybe it was down to the fact that could have been a language thing. I don't know. They could work with their hands better. But then I suppose with ice cream men, you're constantly interfacing with the public, so maybe that helped. But yeah, it was all, and they like none of them were. I wouldn't say easy jobs, but none of them. It was all like manual work. Yeah,
I suppose that you're thinking that a lot of these people who were immigrants from the south of Italy, where there's less industrial, and they probably grew up doing those more manual labor type roles like building and, like we said, salad growing, etc. So I suppose they came and they did what they knew, and they served a purpose for the community, didn't it? You need these things to happen in order for people to eat, to people to get their hair cut, etc. So they did what was needed. At a time, probably talking 60s, 70s when they first started coming over, around that time. Yeah. And we're the byproduct of that.
Exactly. So, if it all goes the other way, I'm still with the family business, but Joe could quite happily take over and be an ice cream man.
I've done it. I did do it a few years back.
Yeah.
I did. I've had a lot of jobs, like many different jobs, and at one point I was in between a couple of jobs, and I went and did ice cream for a summer, for a season.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I was on an ice cream van, and you know what? At that moment, I appreciated the fact that I knew the business, because it meant here's a job that I can walk into. The people that are hiring me, they know me well enough. They know my dad, so they knew that they could trust me to go in an ice cream van and do the job. And it was great. And even to the fact that summer I got to go to Glastonbury Festival. I got to an ice cream van. Yeah, I got to work on an ice cream van at Glastonbury. So I got basically a free ticket to Glastonbury, and sat on an ice cream van and did long shifts during the day. But it was quality, being an ice cream man. Got to go to a music festival.
Well, here's a question for you then. We all know Glastonbury's full of people taking all sorts. What was the weirdest thing you ever saw when you were there? There must be some sites. You must have seen.
Weirdest thing. I saw a man say, "Can I have a large Mr. Whippy?" Which was,
Right.
I don't know how much it was, probably about £3, £3.50. These Glastonbury prices, mind you.
Right.
He's like, "Can I have a large Mr. Whippy?" He like gets this Mr. Whippy. It literally, it's like, it's long, it's big, it's a large Mr. Whippy. He gets
Easy.
and he literally just gets it and just plonks it right on the top of his own head. His own head. He just puts it straight on top of his head.
What a waste of ice cream.
I know. We put it in his head, he was like, "Way!" Like, look at me. What an ice cream head.
Like a big drugged up unicorn, you might say.
Absolutely, yeah. Or a dickhead, depends how you look at it.
Well, yeah, there you go.
That was definitely one of the most random things that I saw. Yeah. What's one of the most random things you've ever seen in the cucumber growing game?
Well, okay. There's a lot of weird things. Now, people, what I've found that grow in the produce industry, there's two sides of it. You've got the one side where everyone's very professional and they're dealing with big companies, big supermarkets, that and the other. Everyone's being very professional. But those same people, when they cross over from retail to wholesale, they change.
Okay.
Like some of the guys I talk to on a daily basis, there's some things coming out of those mouths that that I cannot repeat on this podcast. I wouldn't want to repeat.
Okay.
Whatever's going on in the world, there's some things there, right? Some things I'm not easily shocked. I'll pretty much laugh it off. But for a lesser person who's not used to that type of environment, it's odd.
Potty mouths.
A lot of that. But I remember one particular one. I've gone to, because some of the people I serve, they work through night, because a lot of the catering people, so catering industry, so the restaurants and pubs and etc., they will buy what they need for the week or the day, or the early hours of the morning, about 4, 5 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock, buy it, take it to the restaurant, and then start their day. So a lot of the guys selling it, they're working through the night, so they're working a shift. And I see one guy, and I said, "Wow. That dude is very, very chipper for this time of the morning." And bear in mind, this was about 5, 6 o'clock, and he'd been at work since maybe midnight that night, and it's now 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, so he's winding down. I said, "Wow, that guy is very chipper for this time of the day, considering he's been doing those hours." And then some other guy butted in and said, "Well, that don't surprise me. I walked into their office last week, and they're doing lines of coke on the table."
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I was like, "Whoa!"
Wow.
Yeah. So that's not the first time. Stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a very colourful industry with a lot of very colourful people in it. The saddest part of it is there's not many young people in it anymore.
Okay.
If they are, it's usually from family businesses like myself. But there's not many people sort of between the age of 20 and 30, 35 that really sort of get into it, because it's long hours. They've got to work through the night. They sometimes have to work Saturdays, and a lot of young people they just don't want to do that these days. And I mean, that's fair enough. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it is quite an aging industry. It's very aging, and the thing is that because the guys in it at that age, their mentality has not changed. So you've got the mentality of an older guy who's maybe 50, 60, of the way that's always been. And that's sort of getting brought forward. So there's no younger mentality in there, which is why you get certain characters there, which you think, "Oh, it's a bit crazy for this day and age." But that's just the nature of the business. So there's a lot of strange things I've seen. That is probably one of the strangest.
The drugs thing makes me laugh, because there is this misconception, I suppose, that ice cream men are involved in sort of selling drugs. I don't know if you've heard of this, but
I've heard the stories.
And there has been perhaps a couple of cases where it's been people have actually done that. Maybe people who are newer to the industry and foolish. But I never forget. I was working with my dad once, and someone came up to him, some sort of chav, and comes up. He says, "Oh, all right, mate, you sell coke? You selling coke here?" And my dad goes, "Yeah, I sell coke. Yeah." He goes, "Yeah. How much your coke?" My dad said, "Well, depends, mate. Normal Coke 60p, but if you want Diet Coke, it'll cost you 65. And the guy was like, oh, whatever. Like, he walked off. He was well disappointed. So like, I love the fact that people come up ask for Coke. And my dad gives them the options of, you know, that you can have normal Coke, Diet Coke, you know, Coke Zero. So we sell all the Cokes, not the drug version, but the you know,
never Pepsi though. Don't move that type of stuff.
Well, you know, other drinks are available. That's what I'll say. I'm
from the Coke kind of family.
So you know, it's funny, but of course there have been cases of people selling drugs and stuff like that, of course, and it also, you know, you get a bit of this gang warfare. I don't know if you get the same in the salad growing, but there is a bit of a strange thing going on in the ice cream, Jake.
Right.
You have so an ice cream man is round, right? It's like a geographical location. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how you get it. I don't know if you inherit it or somebody gives it to you, but basically you have your geographical location, and it's kind of like an unwritten rule that if you know someone else has got a patch, you don't go on their patch. You don't take your ice cream van there.
Yeah.
And I've heard all out brawls, wars of words. You know, people getting targeted because they're on somebody else's patch. And people trying to steal other people's patches. I mean, it's
cutthroat.
It is. It gets feisty out there.
That sounds more cutthroat than stockbroking.
No, it is. It can be. It can. Well, it's your livelihood, I suppose. But yeah, you know, we're talking gang warfare out there. You know,
it's dangerous out there.
Around, so yeah.
Hey, listen, just because your Mr. Whippy's good doesn't mean the other guy's gonna be any better. All right, like it's competitive.
It is, but the good thing is, I suppose, customers stay loyal, which is a good thing. So, you know, I don't know. Yeah, do you get the same sort of thing in the salad?
Yes and no. Everyone's very cloak and dagger about what they're doing. Like no one ever tells anyone else who they're supplying or what or who their accounts are with X, Y, and Z. It's sort of it's quite hard because if I'm talking to someone, I really have to watch what I'm saying to them. And I don't like lying to people, but like literally, I have to watch. I don't feel relaxed. So yeah, there is an element of that. Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to the next phase of working.
Okay.
One that you probably had a bit more experience than what I have. Retail.
Okay.
Now I did a small retail job. I was working with my family for a bit, and I was getting a bit annoyed. I was like, "Oh, this is so hard." Like, it was hard work. And then my friend worked at an Argos store, and was like, "Oh, there's a job's going. Come work here." And I thought. Yes, I go to the shop all the time. Looks kind of easy what they're doing. Yeah, bam, that's good. No brainer. So I went and did it, and I've got to say, I did not enjoy that. I'm trying to get. Thinking this. I'm coming from a place where, although the work was hard, it was obviously the family business. So I had some flexibility. You know, if I need to go, I could go. But if I needed half hour off, I could take it X, Y, and Z. So now I'm in this place where I don't make the rules anymore. I'm not a boss. I'm no one. All right. And I've got to take orders from other people. And I'm like, okay, that was jarring to start with.
Yeah.
Then the second thing came when it was like, okay, I thought maybe I'd be on tills or at the front helping people, like give people their packages. Oh no. They put me on the shift where I was at the back pretty much every shift for the whole time I worked there, for the whole 6 months I was there, all right, doing lifting, widescreen TVs, furniture and all of that. So I'm just doing, if anything, the workload's heavier than what I was doing. Right? And then it took them about 2 or 3 months to get me a trolley so I could just push things out for people. It was hard. It was hard. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Sometimes the grass isn't always green on the other side. But the retail world was weird.
Yeah.
I worked through a Christmas period. And believe me, Argos at Christmas is a hellhole.
God, I can imagine it was just being chaos.
It was. Oh my God, like what it is, they've got a ticket system. So if someone orders something, you put your order in. I don't know if it's the same now. Through the till, it sends a signal to a little machine in the at the back, and then tickets come out with the orders on it. So you've got to get the ticket, go to the right aisle. Bear in mind, it's a huge stock room they've got at the back with 2 floors to it. All right, wow. 2 floors. All right, and you've got to find it. Sometimes the delivery hasn't been put in the right place, so you're then looking around to find this item. Then you've got certain valuable items like computer games, electronics. If you want one of them, there's a guy in an office you've got to go to. He then opens it. You've got to get it for you.
Mm.
But you made it in that warehouse when they let you do upstairs storeroom.
Okay.
Because nobody was up there other than you and the other guy you were working with. That was a good time. That was a good time.
So so it
that's
was
when you know the level of
yeah.
trust.
So basically, you experienced that, and you were like, I was better off where I was.
Yeah,
Retail, it was a pain. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's funny, really. I suppose my experience of retail, was a bit different to yours. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my experience of retail. So, I worked for 5 years for a mobile phone provider, and yeah, and it was a really great experience. I mean, I basically got into that job after finishing uni. I did a degree in drama, which anyone who's got a drama degree will tell you that is good for everything and is good for nothing. So basically, if you're good at spinning it, you can say that, oh, your drama degree, yeah, it means I'm really good with speaking to people and understanding body language and all the other things that you learn from being a drama student. But also, most job specs don't ever ask you for a drama degree. So for me, retail seemed like a natural place to get going, and I just got a part-time job working at a mobile phone provider. And within a few months, they were giving me more hours, so went full time. And then in that 5 years, it was a good experience. I managed to work my way up and get into a management position. So for me, it was positive, but it was hard work. It was hard work, and there was a lot of
yeah,
pressure, and especially dealing with customers, because I'm sure I've said this before, but people are the worst. Customers can be so infuriating, and they come in and they expect everything, and they forget like you're a human being, right?
yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah.
standing there. I'm like you. We're both evolved from the same direction here. We're both coming from the same place, but you can talk to me like crap because you're the customer, and the customer's always right, of
Always
course.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So being in that kind of customer facing environment, it's hard work, and seeing what you were saying, understand what you were saying about working in a warehouse. At least you weren't having to deal with like moany, angry,
Yeah,
boring customers. And they
yeah,
weren't all like that. Some of them were good,
yeah,
but
yeah.
sometimes they're all pain. And you get your regulars as well. Yeah, this guy, he's just obsessed. Listen to this, right? You work in a mobile phone shop. I guarantee you will know about phone hypochondriacs, right?
Right,
These are people who are convinced there's something wrong with their phone. Okay, there
right.
is nothing wrong with their phone, but they are convinced. So they'll keep coming in. It's like, well, I guess they're just bored. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is, but they
maybe.
keep coming back in every couple of days. Oh, this has gone wrong on my phone. Can you fix my phone for me? This has gone wrong. It's not working. And literally, you have their phone in your hands, and you're like, look, mate, look, it's working absolutely fine. Look, see this button here? I'm pressing. It's working great. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. It always seems to happen when I'm not in the shop. When I come in the shop, you haven't got a special radar over the door, have you, that fixes phones when you walk in? No, mate. I think you're just pressing the wrong button. So, you're dealing with real pains in the backside. So, that warehouse sounds like a sanctuary, Jake, compared to what I had
Well,
to go through.
it was that, and I didn't realize that until I did my time at Argos and I did my time in retail, and I just found in retail as well, the characters are a bit odd. Like you've always got a manager who's a little bit much, or the one who's trying to discipline you, but it's sort of like still trying to be your friend at the same time. And it's like, well, mate, you can't. You're one or the other. I found certain characters in my time in retail. So you had the man or woman who'd been at that shop from day dot. That's usually like an older lady, maybe in her like late 40s, called Sandra or something. She's like, oh yeah, I've been here since I was in this is like 1998 after it opened, and like she knows the job inside out. Like
Yeah.
her life is that job.
But she's hit like a ceiling basically, and
Yeah,
she's like she can never get any further than that,
yeah. I mean,
because I got my kids and I got them
yeah,
kids come first,
yeah.
that kind
Like
of stuff.
she's never
Yeah.
going to be management because she just don't have the ability. All
Mhm.
right. She will be like jewellery counter at best. That's as far as she's gonna go.
Yeah.
Right? Not even a team leader. She ain't
Pay
getting
as
there.
you go. Pay as you go.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
she's not even working full shifts either. She's working like half time, like part time shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's one of them. Then you'd have, like I mentioned before, the manager who was like strict but tries to be a mate at the same time, and that doesn't work because you're either one or the other.
It is hard though. Let me tell you something. Particularly like my first shop that I managed
Yeah.
was the shop that I'd started off in as a sales advisor, a part-time sales advisor. So I sort of worked my way up, and all of a sudden you're managing those people that you've been
Friends.
working with. Yeah, it's hard because you build
Yeah.
relationships, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you got to tell them that they ain't performing, you're not
Yeah.
doing good enough.
Yeah.
You have to find a way and adapt. So my piece of advice to anyone who goes through that is if you can transfer to a different store or something like that, even for a period of time, get that breakaway, go and work with people you haven't worked with before, manage different people, and maybe come back if you need to, because it's hard finding that balance. I do have sympathy for those managers.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree with that. No, you're right with that. It is difficult, but these were people that I had no prior knowledge of in the first place. I came in and they were there. They were already management, so that's. And then what else was there? Also, I used to find as well that so I didn't work for that long. I think I started in September, and by like February I'd left because it was on a temporary basis. I think that was subconsciously my own doing. I never gave anything more than what I was given. I did 2 till 6 on a Saturday and like 10 till 4 on a Sunday. They weren't getting no more out of me.
Okay.
I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to leave, whatever, but I'm not going to give them enough. So they know that I'm not up for this and they don't renew my contract. Yeah. You know what? It worked. It worked. They didn't renew it. Christmas went, January went, by February, the first week, they're like, oh, Jake, we can't keep you on. Like, it was only a temporary basis. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll see you later. Thank you for the opportunity. And off I went.
Do you know, it's funny. Like, I think I look back on my time in retail because it was sales. Like, as I mentioned before, I did really enjoy. I enjoyed the buzz of selling. Those Saturdays would come around, and I think that's maybe the difference is, I can imagine being in a warehouse, a hot, stinking warehouse, and getting people's orders must be, terrible. And I think the experience I had, which was dealing with customers who are coming in, maybe thinking of buying, and you end up selling something to them. It's a great feeling. You get a real buzz, and that day just goes past so quick. You just flies past.
I mean, generally, obviously I wasn't in retail as long as you were, but generally I didn't have a huge problem with customers. They were mostly quite pleasant. You get the odd bit sort of impatient one, but yeah, some of them I had a bit of a laugh with. During that retail time, I was about 17, 18 years old, and that's when you sort of go into everyone's 18th birthday parties on the Saturday night and going to work on the Sunday morning. Yeah, I went in a few times still drunk. I'm not gonna lie. Some woman ordered this. I think it was a George Foreman grill, right? So I put it on the table for her on the counter, called her over, and usually I'd say, "Oh, do you want a bag with that?" I was still probably partly inebriated at this point, and instead of saying that, I said to her, "Do you want one that works?" She looked at me. I was like, "What?" I was like, "Do you want a bag with that?" She went, "No. You said, do you want one that works?" So I was like, "Yeah." And luckily, she was okay with it. She just laughed it off, and so yeah. Generally, with customers, I didn't have too much of a bad time. Half the time, they're all right.
Yeah, and on the whole, they are right, aren't they? I think it's funny. One of those things, isn't it? Like in life, it's the ones that give you trouble that tend to stick in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got no real memory of anyone really giving me any sort of grief. So I'm happy with that. Had I probably stayed there longer, then I probably would have run into something or someone.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, they're good memories, and that retail job was sort of sandwiched in between lots of other stuff, and like I mentioned, doing ice cream and stuff as well. And and you it's interesting as well, Jake. You worked some time in an office as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So retail was done. After that, I just started working for my family again still, but I was going to uni. Then after uni, I qualified I had a business degree with marketing, and let me tell you something: business degrees in marketing, unless you have a master's or a doctor's in it, they're 10 to the penny. All right. Plus, it was 2008. The recession kicked in, so I would have liked to have done advertising. So as you know, when companies in financial difficulty, people like advertising and marketing, they're the first ones to go. So I could get no jobs at all in that end. So I ended up going to sales and working for a company quite close to where I live, literally a 4 or 5 minute drive away from my house, which is a touch. Roll out of the bed into the office. But it was my first real job in the real world, and it was in sales. I'm a 21, 22-year-old boy coming out, whatever. I might have been a boy, coming out of uni, and I'm going into this office where there's just me and 20 other women in there. And it
Okay.
was frightening to start with, because you didn't know how people were gonna like take to you. All right, it was for the first, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, maybe 5 months. I was getting trained a lot, so I didn't really have too much interaction. But then, as they all started to get to know me and they started warming to me, and I started building up relationships with people in the office, there were some awkward conversations had because they forgot there was a boy in the room. So the stuff I heard at lunchtime, all right, I'm a semi-qualified gynecologist. That's all I'm going to tell you, all right? The things I heard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They did not hold no punches. They were telling me everything. And I was like, you don't have to tell me this. Like, don't make me feel like you got to make me part of the girls. I'm cool with it, all right? I know I'm a guy, whatever. They're like, no, it's fine, it's fine. We'll take you in. And yeah, I mean, there was one. I remember one quite funny story. So it was a big food company, but as well as food, they were getting non-foods in. Somehow, one of the girls managed to come across quite a large supply of ladies' products, sanitary towels.
Okay.
So what she's done is she's taken this box and she's just handed them out to everyone in the office. And then she's gone, oh, Jake, I don't want you to feel out of place, so you can have one too. I was like, what am I going to need this for? So no, just take it anyway. So at this point, I'm very confident. It's been a couple of months in. I know everyone now. I know more, probably about a year in. I know everyone now. I'm more confident. I stood up and I shouted out, girls, just want you all to all know, there's one of these in my drawer. Come and take it if you need it. Don't even tell me, all right? You don't have to tell. Just I want you to all know it's there. It's there. Stuff like that was happening. Yeah, it was very odd. It was a very, very simple situation. But working in an office actually made me realise as well that prior to that, 10 years, about 5-6 years prior to that, when I used to watch The Office, the actual program, that made me realise that some of those characters in that program existed in real life. And you don't realise that until you work in an office.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've done the same thing with Phone Shop.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go. Phone Shop. It's the same thing. Yeah. You can watch that and you know when you're watching that it's just like, hold on a minute. I know a guy or a lady just like that.
Instantly relatable. Yeah.
And a lot of that was evident to me as soon as I started working in an office. And yeah, so I was there for about 3 years. Once again, this is a common theme with me. I became unfocused. And I think everyone around me sort of started realising that. So to help me out a little bit, they put me in a new job. And I should have left at that point because the job was insulting.
Oh, really?
So it was a big call centre where everyone would be managing their accounts. And all the calls would be coming in at huge volumes of calls. Hundreds of calls a day would be coming in because you're taking orders. So they set up this thing called the inbound call team, and they said, Jake, we want you to head it. So basically, we're just providing a service where if people are calling in, we're holding the calls for the people that they need. So we're just glorified receptionists.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. At that point, this is when I was like, yeah, I've got to get out of this place. I've allowed myself to slump that low where don't give a fuck about anything I'm doing. All right. I've become myself to be I'm basically someone's assistant, which is not fine if that's the job you do. I'm not saying it's like a lesser job or whatever, but that wasn't for me.
It wasn't
for me. It was just, and the two people I had working with me said the same. They were just like, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like one was a young guy like me, or the same age. He left just before I did because he'd had enough. One was a lady who'd worked there for, I think, 10, 15 years before I'd even joined. I think she's still there, actually, but the team was disbanded in the end because the guy left, I left, and then they're like, okay, this wasn't working. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, nah, that's where I've got to go. So I went and then joined the family business, and I've been there since 2012.
The thing was, you got to try things, haven't you? I think that's the key thing. Like, and I say to young people, I'm in recruitment now, and I say particularly to young people, like get as much experience as you can, and particularly while you're young. If you want to go and try different jobs out, try them out while you're young enough to do that and get different experience. Because, like you experienced in that call center, you realize what you didn't want to do, and sometimes that's just as helpful. And unfortunately, I seem to be still on that journey in my life. I keep changing jobs all the time, and I think part of that stems down to the fact that, from a young age, I wanted to be an actor, which is why I went and did my drama degree, and still involved in some performing arts, and and from being really young, I remember being a kid and people saying to you, what do you want to be? And my answer, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer would always be, whatever that film was that I'd seen the week before, I'd just seen Back to the Future. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a mad scientist, travel through time, or, or whatever it might be, and these, and these films and things I saw on TV, they kept shaping my opinion on what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I realised maybe I should just be an actor, and I get to play all these different characters all the time.
Why not?
So for me, that's probably sort of slightly dribbled into my working experience, because I've had loads of different jobs. I mean, I was just making a list of some of them, and I've been a school teacher, qualified teacher. I've been a baker. I've been a builder. I've worked in an office. I've been an ice cream man, and we've talked about my time in retail selling mobile phones as well. I've had loads of different jobs, and and they've all come with different experiences and different things that I've loved and some things that I've hated, and funny stories along the way. And it's funny, I just sort of reminded of one when I was involved in building, right? And I was doing a bit of labouring. A good friend of mine, he's a builder, and I was working. There's a team of 3 of us, right? So 2 builders and me. I was there, like, they're bitch boy, basically. Make the teas and all that kind of stuff, and doing some general labouring. And I remember this time we were working in Suffolk on a barn conversion. So it's a big field in the middle of nowhere with this barn, and we're converting this old barn, which was on a farm, into a house, into a property. And there's not really anyone around. I mean, there's another property, a few sort of couple of 100 yards down the road. But it's on a country lane, So, we've been there all day working, grafting, digging and everything else, digging foundations. And it comes towards the end of the day, and our van's parked up on this bit of hard stand, a bit of concrete, like a concrete area. And, we're full of muck and that. And, the guy who I was working with, it's his van, and he says, look, I don't want to get the van full of mud. You got to change your clothes if you can get changed here. So anyway, we're standing by the side of the road, basically, on this hard stand, getting changed. And it just so happened at the point when all 3 of us seemed to have our trousers off, right? Standing
Where's
there,
this going?
nothing but our boxer shorts, right? And getting changed, and just happened to be, at this very moment, lo and behold, a police car pulls up right alongside where we are. And these 2 officers, they stop, they look out their window, turn to their left, look at us, and like stare in amazement, while the 3 of us are basically naked down to our boxers, standing there. And I don't know if they thought there was some kind of fancy outside dogging orgy about to take place, or what was going on, but they were just looking at us, and I'm basically trying to like cover up my nipples with my hands and stuff, like trying to make sure there was no like holes in my boxers, like these policemen looking at me. And next thing I know, I'm just struggling to get my clothes on as soon as possible, and one of the policemen gets out, and the builder who I was working for, he managed to get changed quickly, get his clothes on, and he explains, we're here, we're just working, we're getting changed. And the police officers were in stitches. They're absolutely laughing their heads off, and they were very confused. And but it was a funny memory to me, being in that situation. And I can't imagine that ever happening in retail or lots of the other jobs I've had. But there's funny stories and experiences that are unique to the jobs you have, and even if those jobs aren't the thing that you go on and do for the rest of your life, or even if you don't particularly like them very much, hopefully you can find those little funny moments that stay part of your memories.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, no, that's right. So we've gone through our job sort of journeys, you could say, to where we are now, in a way. Like you said, you're in recruitment after working many different jobs. I'm now working for the family business after working a few different jobs. So we've seen both sides of the coin. So out of all the jobs you've done yourself, you said you've done quite a few. What, if you had to, okay, this is a good question. If you had to pick any of those jobs to do for the rest of your life, what would it be? Because bear in mind, a lot of people do jobs where they don't necessarily enjoy it, but they're doing it because they need to pay the bills. But out of the ones you've had, what would you say, you know what, I could do that for my whole life, if you had to?
Do you know what? That's a tough question, because there's been things about all the jobs that I've liked and things about all of them that I haven't. I've been fortunate enough where I have acted and been paid for it, and been registered as an actor.
Yeah. And
I suppose deep down, if I could do anything for the rest of my life, I'd probably do that, purely because it means I get to play all these different wacky and wonderful people. Yeah. So I suppose that, but if I wasn't going to do that, do you know what? I'll probably go back to the building sites. Yeah. Because you know, you work with freedom, a bit like those customers you were talking about earlier. That you have those conversations, those fruity kind of conversations where there's a lot of
Fruit is
blue,
one way.
a lot of blue stuff being said, and the funny stories that came out of the back of that. I genuinely enjoyed doing that job and being outside, and even when the weather was crap, I worked with people that made me smile, and I think that is the key. If you whatever the job you can get, and mine was the building, if I could go back and work with those people again, I probably would, because they made me smile pretty much every single day. So yeah, for me, if I had to pick, if it wasn't acting, I'd probably be a builder. What about you?
None of them. And that's honest. That's
Okay.
honest. That's me being honest. None of them. I don't know why, but none of them. Obviously, I'm doing them now. But I'm saying no, I don't know.
What would you rather be doing then? Careful in case your family listen to the pod. Obviously,
I don't really care. That's fine.
They know you're unhappy.
Yeah. And then I'm close to ending it every day. Let's have a look. So let me think. Well, I used to think that I would have liked to be involved in entertainment of some sort, not as an actor or anything like that, because I'm just not artistic enough. But maybe the agency side of it or representation side of it. But I've seen a few programs on that, and I don't think I'm unscrupulous enough to do that sort of job. I've got too much guilt, so I don't think I could do that.
I guess that goes back to marketing, though, right? It's just you're marketing person.
Yeah,
right?
I suppose. Yeah. And maybe product development. I've seen this, and that looks quite good. Getting people in, doing focus groups, testing stuff. Different products and that. That's I've been a part of that before. I've been part of a study where we had to test a new beer that was coming out, which never came out. I never saw it in the shops.
Was it a good beer? Did you like it?
Well, it was a cross between cider and beer. It was like a lager flavoured cider or a cider flavoured lager. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Okay. It was nice, but it never came out. I kept looking for it, but no, never. Yeah, that'd be quite good, maybe. Yeah, product development. I'd like to go into that, maybe.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
But I wouldn't be able to. But someone's got to bring me the product. Because once again, I'm not artistic or handsy enough to create anything. I haven't got the patience.
So you're more of like a research and development role.
Yeah, I'd like to ask people what they like.
Okay. Why are you so good at podcasting, Jake?
Well, that could be another thing. If this does ever take off, I could podcast about stuff. Maybe even radio DJ. I don't know.
How about a podcast about everything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, that's been in the chamber. He's been waiting to use that one.
He's saving it up.
He's ready to shoot. Bang, bang, bang.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so something along them lines, really.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go with that. But yeah, so what about for the future, Joe? I mean, we are where we are, I guess. Uncertain times. I'm lucky at the moment. My job is safe. I believe yours is too, or.
Well, look, like everything, I suppose it's relative. You just never know. But generally speaking, I think I'm lucky. I work for a company which they got the finances there in order to hopefully mean that jobs are safe. But I suppose it's ironic, for somebody like me who never really knew what I wanted to do and has done lots of different jobs. And it's now my job to find people jobs. So it's kind of it's funny how these things sometimes come full circle. But I think I can safely say I won't be doing this forever. Mm-hmm. I think part of the reason I jump from job to job, different places, working different places, is because I think I just get a bit bored sometimes, and I like the challenge of learning something new.
I don't think you're the only one, John. I think that happens to a lot of people. I reckon a higher percentage is people do get in a job and they sort of do it, go through the motions because obviously they've got responsibilities and bills to pay and whatnot. And yeah, they do get themselves into that type of rut.
I like to keep it fresh, and I think even when I was back at working mobile phones, I was there for 5 years. This is probably the longest I've been at any of my jobs. Mm-hmm. I think one thing that helped with that is I worked in different stores, and I worked in 5 different stores. They kept moving me around, and that was kind of fun because I was relocating, I was moving to different areas, moving house, and it kept things fresh. And I think if whatever I do next, if I don't end up staying where I am now for the rest of my career, I think I'll probably end up trying to do something where it involves me having a new challenge all the time. Because
that's that's a smart way to look at it, and you know, keep dreaming for that actor's job. That might
Well, you
happen.
never know.
Yeah.
The thing is, you never stop acting, really. No matter
No.
what job you do,
Yeah,
you're always putting on a bit of
he's acting up all the time. To be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. Big
You know,
baby when it comes to that.
he can, you know, you can become an actor, and you know, as we said, I can be your manager / agent / all the other things. Mark Wahlberg, if you're listening, Entourage inspired us for this. We had the dream of doing that.
Absolutely, we just didn't have the talent.
Yeah, I doubt Mark Wahlberg will listen to to something like this unless he's extremely bored in lockdown. And
put this on social media and call him out. See if he'll listen to it.
Yeah.
Where you at, Wahlberg? Where's your podcast?
Yeah, so like, I think he's got one actually. He must have one, surely.
Well, if he doesn't, maybe he can come on ours.
Yeah, via link.
Absolutely, but no, I mean, for me, you know, and I did it as work, and I became a drama teacher. I was involved in performing arts, and you know, I realised that to do something you love, which is, you know, it's very hard to do something that you love and get paid for it. I think, you know, it's some people, you know, they get paid for something, they end up falling in love with it because it pays well, for example. But for me, I was trying to combine that, and you know, while it, you know, in the short term it had a little bit of success, in the long term, you know, it hasn't been for me. I wanted to do other things like, you know, buy a house and everything else. So for me, I had to make a decision and go and get jobs which, you know, paid the money on a more regular basis rather than, you know, being a jobbing actor. And yeah, I think in the long run, you know, you still do it. I still perform for fun, and you know, do amateur productions, and it still gives me joy. And what more can you ask for?
Oh, good. No, that's what you need. That's what you need. So yeah, this has been episode 3 on jobs and work. We're getting shorter, Joe. This is under an hour.
Oh,
if we keep talking for another, I don't know, 4 minutes, we could get to an hour on the dot. But yeah, no, we're
about
better.
Quality, Jake, not quantity.
Exactly. Quality. It is. We're delivering it. We're coming to the people. You know what I wanted to say there, but I wasn't sure if I could say it.
No, you don't want to get plagiarised by
no.
Peter Kay. Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't care. Yeah. But yeah, anything else, John?
Other than it's just been a real pleasure, Jake, and you know, everyone's work journeys are going to be unique, absolutely unique. Nobody has the same journey, but make the most of it. Enjoy. If you can do something that you enjoy, even mildly, and get paid for it, then you're onto a winner.
See, I always leave Joe with the final words because he's got a way with them that I do not have.
I like the way you speak.
You must be the only person. I have a foul mouth. It's disgusting. If I'm disgusted in myself, I can only imagine what others think of me.
Oh, I love you, Jake.
Oh, thank you. Someone has to. Okay, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're on number 3 now. Hopefully bring you number 4 very soon. So yeah, I'll see you later. Joe?
I'll see you later too.
Okay, see you later, guys. Bye.